Last Pint Productions presents the New Way podcast. The New Way contains adult content, including Hitler, the Bigfoot, and the man who killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot. Listener discretion is advised.
The last time she tortured me, I could barely stand up for a week. Pain like you'd never believe. Doctor said they might have to amputate it off.
Do you understand? It's nothing like the comic book you want it to be.
I know what you all are. You bunch of damn liberals.
What are you, a Nazi?
Or is that too far to the left?
I was just thinking what it would be like to kiss you.
You're my choice tonight. Everybody wants to be naked and famous. Everybody wants to be just like me. I'm naked.
Will you help teach me about this? What is it? A new way?
Hello and welcome once again to the New Way podcast, where we break down pop culture so you don't have to take care of it all. You have no worries. We're going to break it down, and we're going to do it how you like it. Doucement. Very, very slowly.
Well, they could feel free. They could feel free to break down pop culture on their own if they want to. We just wouldn't recommend it.
You say this, Nick, and I want this like a dictatorship. We are breaking down the pop. We are the only one. We are entrusted with the.
Well, it's like wearing masks. It's like wearing masks in public. We can't force people, but we don't recommend it.
We don't recommend it. This is true. I am Matt Shank. I am joined via the Zooms by Mr. Benjamin Wilson.
It's an imagined monopoly over the analysis of pop culture, I believe, that we have.
Do not pass go.
An imagined monopoly. Wow. And Mr. Nicholas Santa Croce.
Hello.
Hello.
I already kind of said hello, though.
This is true.
It's true.
And we have a special guest.
You owe me a Coke.
We have a first time guest. Now, Mark called in and left a message for our 100th episode and asked us please to not talk about cats ever again, and then we did nothing but talk about cats for many after that.
You didn't tell me Mark was anti-cats. I would never have let this happen.
He was a very anti-cats, but Mark is a long-time listener, first-time joiner. How's it going, Mark?
It's going great, guys. How is it?
We're excited to have you on here. We roped Mark into one of our stranger episodes that we do every so often. Realize this is only the third one of these we've done. We get to them once every year, 14 months or so. They take a while because it is very hard to do what we do. We're going to get to that when we get to the main part of the podcast. But I want to talk about a couple of things before we get into that. First of all, I'm continually amazed at what TV is doing in regard to having production shut down on so many shows and having all these things. And one of the latest ones that popped up is kind of interesting. There's a show called The Blacklist, which is not a great amazing show, but it's a really good James Spader performance, and I kind of one of those I tune in and like put it in the background once a week. So they were real close to the end of their season. They had an episode and a half left to go. They were shooting in New York, and they were shut down like so many other TV series, and basically had to halt production. So they're scrapping their original finale episode, but they took this other episode that they were halfway through, and they are animating graphic novel style the second half of the episode. They sent recording equipment to all of the stars' homes and had them record VO basically, and they're animating the half of the episode and writing it as a new finale for the season. And I saw some of the artwork and it looks awesome. Like I'm sort of amazed at the creativity that's coming out of it, because like that's a really cool idea to get around the fact that you can't
meanwhile the animators working breakbacking hours in their basement to create this don't agree with you, but
I'm sure the animators are happy to have work going on right now that they can do in their basement away from it.
Happy. We can replace you in a second. And draw faster.
Look, those kids need that work. They have toys that they want to buy, Nick, and they're not going to get them for
Hollywood.
free.
So Hollywood.
Well, I was curious about that, Nick, for your take on the fact that there are all of these shows in limbo, and there are all of these shows, that had the first season that has finished that are now waiting to see, are we going to get the networks have commitments to other shows, but everybody's kind of shut down now. What do you think we're going to see on the other side of this? Are we going to lose just a bunch of like one season shows that just, there's no way for them to pick production back up, or what?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. They made a bunch of renewals recently. I'm seeing. How they're going to make it work, no one knows, but they're renewed. So that's the first step in that battle. I don't know. I think that on one hand, we're going to see a lot of ingenuity, and it's going to be really inspiring and cool, and we're going to see a lot of really neat things come out of this. But we're kind of alluding to my point before. We're also going to see people really bending over backwards to make this work. People thought they maybe would be working less from home, and it turns out that no, they may be under even more pressure to deliver than they were in a pre-COVID-19 world, which is crazy. We haven't, just like the rest of the economy, we have to reopen, but we have to do it right. I'm on this Facebook group that says Reopening Hollywood, where everyone is weighing in, and everybody has a different concern. Everybody has one thing that they're more scared of than the other, whether it be like interacting with talent because they can't wear a mask, or using certain equipment under certain conditions. It's gonna take a while, and it's gonna be an inexact science, and it's gonna take certain shows saying like, "Look, we made a decision. We're gonna start filming."
I mean, I know it's not an exact correlation, but I've listened to a lot of podcasts talking about sports, and organized sports and sort of what they're looking like, because right now, as it's planned, like football is coming back.
The Dolphins are leading the way with that.
And
which isn't real football, but it's
right, exactly.
The only thing the Dolphins can lead in is the strategy to get asses back in the seat.
There,
so
but they couldn't do in the beginning during normal season time.
What's going on, Nick? Are we back in 1993? Anyways, no, but especially with collegiate sports, there's all these concerns about typically what would happen is when fall camp happens is like all of these college athletes, all these football players come back and they stay in a hotel during, while they're doing all these things. And they pretty much kind of eat, sleep, live football for a few weeks. But now what they're talking about doing is they're doing that sequestered. Like they're not allowed to leave. They are literally going to be chaperoned from that place to the football field.
So all the things hated, everything they hated about the training camp now lasts for 17 to 20 weeks.
Well, no, I mean, so now what they're talking about is just like they're not allowed to go downtown. They're not allowed to, so while fall camp is happening.
It's hard knocked, but for 17 weeks.
Well, I mean, in training camp, people can do what they want to do.
You're right. You're right.
But the thing is people have always had free will to do whatever they want to do, even though those schedules are really demanding. What I'm saying is now they won't even have the option. Now they can't even leave the fucking hotel.
Yeah. Well, my roommate Ben is obsessed with this idea that Tyler Perry is apparently moving forward with. He bought what used to be a military complex to build his own studio outside of Atlanta, I believe. And he is
Perry World.
Yeah. So he has a series greenlit. They're ready to go. They're going to move the cast and the crew. Basically, you check in and you don't check out for 5 weeks. You live on the campus.
Yeah.
And you shoot the show. Everyone gets tested on their way in. And then once that clears, then you're just there for, 2 months.
Which, I mean, if you're thinking about it's smart. It's smart. Right? I mean, that's essentially the same thing as what I'm saying is that they're
it sounds crazy, sports. But it's in theory, right?
It's very much the same model as what's going on with my brother and his news station. This kind of thing. They cleared out everyone that did not have to be in the building, and everyone else is essentially like you are in the building, like you're here almost all the time. And when you go, like you have rules when you go out of this building that you are not putting yourself in danger and risk. They just don't have the facilities to be putting them all up, on premises. But if they could, I'm sure they would.
And what if, you have a family or like you simply can't commit to living on a Tyler Perry's film studio for 2.5 months? Those people then now don't get work, and those are maybe more qualified. Maybe they have seniority. That's going to open up a whole other can of worms. So, of course, anyone young and new is going to jump at that opportunity. And they're going to get the work.
Yeah, I mean that is tough. I mean and that's a tough call on both sides because it seems like he's making steps to make it safe. Basically by saying keeping people safe, and it's like it's shitty for a lot of people now. Anyway, like my brother hasn't seen his girlfriend in over 2 months. Actually, it'll be almost it'd be 2 months, like right now, like today, I think.
At least he has a girlfriend.
Yeah. His timing shitty as hell, but yeah, like she
Nick,
lives
it's
in
been
another
2 months since you've seen your imaginary girlfriend.
like she can't
She's
travel.
not imaginary. She lives in Canada, and it's hard for her to break away from work.
Well,
right?
and what's
Especially
kind of,
now.
What's sort of scary with his thing is you got to think about that. So right now she just like there's no travel allowed, so it's kind of like that barrier is there. But once travel's opened up, that doesn't necessarily mean that like my brother's organization will open up to them being with people who are traveling from other countries and that kind of stuff. There's going to be a very strange thing going on with that.
Organization.
Yes, the organization.
Your brother's in the South Florida Mafia.
Listen, I know that we have like 4 listeners, but just in case, I don't want to like name exact names of where he works and
organization.
Yeah, they told us we didn't want to say too much about the organization, but
hey, first rule of the organization is you don't talk about the organization, all right?
I also
That's
want,
Fight Club.
Yes, that was.
Yeah, you say too much over there. Jimmy's gonna come over and break your fucking legs.
That's right. The other thing I wanted to mention, so I guested on a podcast on Sunday evening.
What?
I cheated on the new way. And I lent my voice to a podcast called
we have an open relationship, but you have to communicate with us, Matt. That was the deal.
It just happened. I had to go for it.
Unbelievable.
Lonely Screen Delicatessen. You might recognize the first 3 letters of that, which is kind of amazing because their tagline when they start the episode is, "Hi, welcome to the show. You're on LSD." Which is kind of a cute little fun thing. It was a very strange show. It was interesting but strange. The topic of that podcast was specifically all food related things and basically like just talking about extreme eating things. So Mark, you'll be happy I got to share the perfect fart story from Tallahassee, Florida that you're familiar with. Which went over well. And the other thing is, I didn't know what this format of the show.
Hit the full fart story. Subscribe to our Patreon.
I've told the perfect fart story on our show as well. But what was funny is I loaded up, since I knew the show was going to be about food topics, and I had not actually prepared to talk about that one. It just fit in one of the questions they asked. I just loaded up farts and burps on the soundboard just maybe it would use them, but I didn't want to. I'm like, I don't want to be like come in like the morning. No, this podcast went 2 hours. I did not break out sounds until an hour 40 in, but there was someone started telling a story that was like too perfect, and I just started with like kind of subtle ones, and everyone had no idea what was happening, like where the sound effects were coming from. Was the guy just making them? But it was pretty funny. But I recommend checking out Lonely Screen Delicatessen over on YouTube. They run their podcasts off of a live Facebook call, which is kind of interesting. It was a little bit different than how I've been used to doing it, but they asked that I might come back again or might bring you guys along as well. So we're going to keep in touch with those guys and see if we can maybe do some cross collaboration.
They should feel free to get me or Ben on, without Matt for a different perspective at any time. I'm available.
I think that they're listening right now and they're gonna take you.
And then you'll see. Then you'll see.
Well, just because I knew Nick would be a little bit sore that I was on a podcast without them, I decided to also.
I'm gonna go on a different podcast.
I decided that I was going to follow that up by surprising you all with a game. That's right. I just told Nick I'm going to date his mom, and then I bought him a shiny new toy to endear him to my cause. That's what I do over here. Now, I have stolen this game from Doug Loves Movies, as Ben has done in the past as well, because he has great movie games. They're good stuff. But this is the tagline.
And he loves movies.
This is the tagline game. I have prepared a mess of taglines. I'm going to go in order of each of you gentlemen, so no one has to yell out or buzz in or anything. But I'm going to give you a movie tagline, and you're going to tell me what movie that was in. If you're right, you will hear a right sound. If you're wrong, you will hear the wrong sound. And I'll let you maybe guess a couple of times, but I have a bunch of these, so until you get bored, let's do it up. It's going to go Ben, Mark, Nick in that order. So we'll start with Ben. This one should be an easy one, but we have seen him miss questions like this before. So let's see what it is. In space.
Nostromo.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
That would be Alien.
That is correct. Well done. Mark.
Nostromo.
These start off easy, they get harder.
You notice how I said Nostromo before you even asked?
Yeah,
the
of
fucking
course you
question?
did. Mark, yours is who you gonna call?
That would be Ghostbusters, Matt.
There we go. Nick, be afraid. Be very afraid.
Because your best friend is about to appear on other podcasts without telling you and break your heart.
No, that isn't correct.
Oh. Be afraid. I actually don't know if I know this one, to be honest with you.
I showed you this movie for the first time with a young
Be afraid.
with a young Jeff Goldblum in the
Oh,
lead
The
role.
Fly.
That's
The Fly.
correct.
That's the Fly's tagline.
That's the Fly. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Interesting.
Ben, the bride gets the thrills. The father gets the bills.
Father of the bride.
That is correct. Mark.
Good context clues there.
Mark, he may be dead, but he's the life of the party.
Weekend at Bernie's.
That's correct.
Nice.
Nick,
Nicely done.
an adventure 65 million years in the making.
Jurassic Park.
That is correct. Ben, getting a little harder here. Even a hitman deserves a second shot. Even a hitman deserves a second shot.
Well, Jason Statham's in it. You need the name.
Man on Fire.
That is incorrect. You're going to be very upset that you missed one. This one, it is Gross Point Blank, one of your favorite
I should know
movies.
that. Yeah, my bad.
Mark, on the air and unaware. Think it's a
I know what it
tricky
is.
one.
I know what it is. Can we give him an actor?
Look at these jackals just waiting to take your kill.
Let's give you an actor.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
It stars Jim Carrey.
Correct.
Oh, Truman Show.
There we go. Nice.
I thought it was Airheads. I was going to say Brendan Fraser, actually.
That's, Nick, yours is Nice
They
Planet.
were on the air and unaware, to be fair.
Yours is Nice Planet. We'll take it.
Right. Nice Planet. It's Mars Attacks.
That is correct. Well done. I specifically assigned that one to you. Ben. This is my favorite one in the whole one. Man is the warmest place to hide. Man is the warmest place to hide.
Man.
This is another one you specifically should get.
Man is the warmest place to hide.
That is correct.
Alternate Shania Twain lyric.
Uh,
I'm sorry. I had to
The
make that
Thing?
land.
The Thing is correct. Well done. There you go. Wow. That is the funniest tagline I think I've ever seen in my life.
I'm like, species?
Mark, you'll never go in the water again.
Jaws.
There we go. Nick,
Nice.
Here they grow again.
Oh.
Here-
Gremlins 2, the new batch.
That is correct. Wow, you guys are killing this. Let's see. Ben.
Civilization.
Ben, this time it's personal. This time it's personal.
I want to say is it T2 Judgment Day?
No.
Good guess.
It is the fourth in a series. A series we've already talked about right just moments ago in a question that Mark answered. You want to guess, Mark? Do
Jaws
it, Mark.
4.
That
the
is
one at SeaWorld.
No.
Oh,
That's
Jaws
three.
the Revenge.
The Jaws the Revenge.
Revenge.
Jaws the Revenge.
Okay.
Correct.
I like Jaws
Three
4,
SeaWorld.
the one at SeaWorld.
Was it 3 or 4 the one at
Three
SeaWorld?
is the one at SeaWorld, yeah.
You guys should watch
Jaws 3D.
the
Yes.
Chris Stuckman hilariosity. It's like, oh no, the plot of the movie is the shark has a like a vendetta against
It swims from New York to to Jamaica. It's amazing.
SeaWorld is going to pay for their indiscretions against marine wildlife.
All right, Mark, we scare because we care. We scare because we care. It's an animated classic. Matt has an affinity for it. One of his favorite Pixar movies.
Oh, so
Oh,
Devon
Monsters,
Sawa
Inc.
is not in
Yeah,
this.
that's right. Nick,
Sawa.
you'll believe a man can fly.
Hook.
No. Earlier than Hook.
You'll believe a man. Oh, Superman.
That's correct. Ben, the mission is a man. Ben gets all of the gay porno ones.
Brokeback Mountain.
The mission is a man. It's literally a line in the movie. But this time the mission is a man, sir.
I don't suppose it's the mission. No, I'm just joking.
It is Saving Ryan's Privates. By Mr. Spielberg.
Yep, right. There you go.
Mark.
Saving Private Ryan.
Mark, his story will touch you even though he can't.
Yes.
I knew Nick would
The Michael Jackson story.
Do we know this one, Mark?
Ghost Dad with Bill Cosby.
That is not. That's a very good guess.
Powder?
That was powder. It's not powder. This is, of course, Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, right.
That's right.
On account of this scissor.
That's right. Nick, some memories are best forgotten.
Memento?
Correct. Ben, real hard one here. Sorry, buddy. Reality is a thing of the past. By the way, every one of these movies I've picked on here, we've discussed.
Yeah.
Most of them, other than like Jaws 4, most of these are things we've discussed quite a few times on here.
Reality is a thing of the past.
Yeah, it's a pretty good tagline when you think about it.
It's often disappointing.
Yeah, but it's not real good if like when you know what the movie is, it's good. It's not a good tagline otherwise.
Reality is a thing of the past.
Starring your favorite Mr. John Wick is in it. And that's right. Nick is wearing him on his shirt.
The Matrix?
Correct. That is the Matrix tagline.
Nice.
We got just a few more here. Mark, same make, same model, new mission. I will say it has been guessed already, but incorrectly on this podcast. I believe Ben thought the Jaws was this. I'll give you another hint. You brought us in high school our very first porno, and we hid it in the sleeve to this movie.
Wow. I'll give you another hint. Look, watch, right?
That's all he needs.
That's all you should need.
That's all he needs.
Is it Terminator 2?
That is correct. It is Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
You hid pornography in T2?
We did, and we called it T2 because that was the easiest way to get it because we put it in each other's lockers. And that was
2 syllables. It's snappy.
It was perfect. It was great. Then one of our teachers borrowed it and it got real ugly, but no, that's a joke.
Wow.
Nick, this is a tricky one. An epic of epicness.
An epic of epicness. Is my man Keanu in this one too?
No, he is not. But it has a sprawling cast, including Captain America and Superman. Both appear in this movie.
Oh, Scott Pilgrim versus
That
the
is
World.
correct. Well done.
Of course. One of my favorite movies ever.
Ben, this is a good one for you. When he said I do, he never said what he did. When he said I do, he never said what he did.
He never said
what he did.
What he did. All the things he said,
and he especially didn't say it doucement or very slowly.
Oh, I see. I was misunderstanding the syntax of the line.
It is
That's true lies.
It is a poorly syntaxed tagline, but yeah.
It's true lies.
Mark, the longer you wait, the harder it gets. Okay. And yes, this is meant to be a euphemism.
Story.
The longer you wait, the harder.
It's a Judd Apatow joint.
Ben Wilson too.
About a man looking to have sex for the first time.
He's the head of Space Force.
40-year-old virgin.
There we go. That's good, Nick. Nick, this one's specific for you. I don't think anyone else.
If you're the head of Space Force, you're definitely getting laid, though.
Yeah, maybe. Nick, this one is "It will scare you to pieces."
It's so crazy that I can picture the actual tagline on the poster and not the poster.
This is not a popular, like a well-known movie. This is a cult movie you are specifically into. You're especially into the musical version of it.
Is this Reanimator?
That is correct. Reanimator is it will scare you to pieces.
Oh man,
Ben.
Well, this is for Stuart Gordon then.
There you go. We got this last one for each one of you guys. Ben. This one's impossible, but but we could try it anyway. Part mystery, part thriller, parts missing.
I see what they did there.
Your dog is a fan of an actor in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Parts missing.
Parts missing. Part mystery, part thriller. Parts missing.
Parts missing.
Wow. Masterful tagline.
I mean, it really should be body parts, but I don't think that's what it is.
No, it is. It stars a favorite actor of Sully's,
Bill Pullman.
Yep, and our favorite Golden Girl, Betty White, as Lake Placid. Lake Placid's tagline is part mystery, part thriller, parts missing.
That's a bad tagline for that movie.
And Bridget Fonda.
Mark, this is one you will not get, or if you do, I will be very impressed. When a girl
you get to host the show from now on, if you get
yes, true. I'll let you do that. When a girl has a heart of stone, there's only one way to melt it. Just add ice.
Princess of Stone.
No. No. When a girl has a heart of stone, there's only one way to melt it. Just add ice. It is the hit vehicle for Mr. Vanilla Ice. Cool as ice. That is the tagline. There's only one way to melt a heart of stone. Just add ice. And Nick, for the final one, the happiest sound in all the world.
The happiest sound in all the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Happiest sound in all the world is the sound of children's laughter. The movie.
No.
What is it? What is it? I have no idea.
Oh, whoops! I almost played a bad wrong sound effect. It is the sound of music.
Of music.
Yes,
right.
Sound of music. So that was our
the hills were not alive. Sorry.
Our tagline game. Thank you guys for playing that one. I thought that'd be a little fun to break up our stuff here.
It was a little fun.
Well, I'm glad it was just a little fun. Anyway, let's get to our topic of the night. So we do this every so often. It is called Cold Readings. And what that means is each of us assigns one another a movie that we have never heard of. We don't know who is in it. We don't know who directed it. We don't really know when it came out. We have no information, so that when we sit down in front of the screen, we are watching something for the first time that we have never seen or heard about, which makes it really fun because you have no preconceived notions. You don't know if it's going to be a comedy or a drama, if it's supposed to be taken seriously. Was this
or a
movie
slow-moving Australian horror film?
Sometimes it's a slow-moving Australian horror movie. Sometimes it's a terrible movie from the 80s, one of two, either starring Kathy Ireland or Charlie Sheen, and Ben gets assigned it. Ben did get a better one assigned this time. I actually went and I watched everything that we had assigned. Some of them I'd seen before, and some that I hadn't, but just so we can all kind of communicate. But I think the way it's best to do it is, and we'll start with Ben on this one. Give us kind of a laydown of the plot and how you kind of came into it and what your expectations were. Yours is a little bit tricky because your title gives quite a bit away as to what movie you are about to watch.
Two
so
major
it's a little bit
plot
different.
points, actually.
Yes.
I think that's kind of the point. So Nick assigned me the movie The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then Bigfoot, which seems pretty, apropos for the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
It would be awesome if it was about something completely different. But what I was amazed by, first off, I can't. I'm simultaneously sort of really understanding of why it didn't touch my peripheral, because it's so new that it, for some reason, it never came across my purview. I had never heard of it because it came out last year. It came out in 2019. When I first heard the title, I assumed it was something that came out 10 years ago and was a B movie that maybe it had some sort of cult following, or I have no idea.
That's fun.
But instead, no. Not only was pleasantly surprised it was a movie that came out last year, was a movie that stars fucking Sam Elliott and Ron Livingston and like a great fucking cast. And it's a movie that knows it's a grindhouse movie, but then takes itself really seriously and is surprisingly effective, even though it actually takes itself seriously. And a lot of that is due to pretty, competent direction, and also just the fact that Sam Elliott's a badass.
Yes, he is.
He kills it. I mean, he absolutely kills it.
But it's
The banquet beer.
it turns into one of these basically kind of time jumping. I liken a lot to like the last season of True Detective, where it's jumping back and forth, almost like an unreliable narrator to present, through different points of past, and seeing things that happened and how they happened. So, but it's also interesting that you can find. It's a movie that actually manages to find some legs with its own subject matter, even though the subject matter is spelled out in the title of the movie.
So tell us a little bit about what happens in this, other than what the
Well,
title
first he kills Hitler, and then
So basically, Sam Elliott, and then a younger actor plays a younger version of him in World War II. That's essentially hired to impersonate a Nazi officer, kill Hitler, and then the Nazis actually made it look like it was a suicide. So, to cover it up. And that he was, to me, the way that I likened it, actually, because I recommended it to Mike Fincannon. I think Mike Fincan's really going to like that movie because it's like an hour and a half long X-Files episode is what it feels like. It feels like
that's really dead on.
It feels like a really well fleshed out, thought out kind of with a very concise beginning and end, but it's this big vast conspiracy. Basically, it's like this guy killed Hitler, and then Ron Livingston, much later, in his life in the 70s or 80s, Ron Livingston plays another army guy that was like, by the way, we heard, I heard rumors from my father, and he, or my grandfather, and he said that there was this guy who, killed Hitler. And
so just tell us, did you kill Hitler?
yeah, essentially. So he's trying to make him fess up to it, and he kind of does. And then it gets hired to go kill Bigfoot because Bigfoot is apparently spreading a plague.
Yeah, guys,
Canada.
Topical.
Now you're burying the lead. I realize we've been hunting for the wrong dude. Can we show that movie to Trump and get him to get on a press conference? Like, what we got to do is kill this Bigfoot guy. I saw this movie. Like, it's so easy now. We just kill a Bigfoot.
Some people are saying, a lot of people are saying, only way to stop this, kill Bigfoot.
Kill Bigfoot.
Kill the Bigfoot.
And we will kill Bigfoot, the likes of which killing Bigfoot has never been seen.
Listen, I realized that for a long time, I thought Bigfoot was a myth. But listen, I've met him. He's Chinese. He started coronavirus. He's from Wuhan.
Feet, not that big. Not that big. Small
Not
feet.
that big.
Misnomer, not that big. I've
But
seen bigger
awful.
feet. I've got bigger
He's
feet.
awful. And he's just biting and scratching. He starts that corona. The corona comes over here.
I
You
like
kill
your
Bigfoot.
description as the X-Files episode because like I had seen the preview and I think I was expecting a little more grindhouse because he really does. He really kind of splits it down the middle, and that it's very much a coming of old age, story. And there's a lot of very metaphorical things. He's got this phantom stone in his shoe that he can't, that this thing that's gnawing at him all the time that you can't get rid of, and all these things. And it was really, it's very poignant. And then you have the Bigfoot thing, which is sort of like out of, and it made me kind of wish that it was not spelled out in the title, because I think that as a reveal, the way that they slow play that movie would have been like shit. Like that would have. I think
you call it the man who killed Hitler, and it ends with him killing Bigfoot.
Yeah, right. It really felt like there should have been this mystery that gets on, because it happened so late. I mean, the movie's like a long time getting to Bigfoot.
The man who killed Hitler and then ellipses.
See,
and then fucked his wife.
This is the only movie that starts off with someone killing Hitler, and I'm like, come on. Get I mean, it's great and all.
But no, I was very pleasantly surprised, just because I've gotten the shit into the stick a couple times on our blind readings, And
Alien from L.A. I still stand by that movie. We had an excellent time watching that.
Oh,
together.
sure, it was
It
fun.
wasn't that we didn't have a good time watching it, but it is not a good movie.
It's not a good
No,
movie.
It's awful.
Whereas I feel like there's a lot that can be taken from this recent film, from The Man Who Killed Hitler and then Bigfoot. That it's that even if you don't want to enjoy whether you're
Spoiler
looking for-
alert.
if you want grindhouse aspects, it's got that. It's got especially some transitions that are very much like Sam Raimi, very Evil Dead-ish, especially the scene where he's like when he's first agrees to go kill Bigfoot, and he's like, they opened up this huge arsenal. There are all these guns. He's like, that gun, that scope, this knife.
Knife.
And it like zooms in.
Yes. The Raimi moment.
That was a great bit.
But Ben, I wanted to hear your thoughts. Did you think that the full frontal Bigfoot nudity was necessary or was done artfully?
Absolutely necessary. Absolutely.
It was tasteful. It was tasteful.
Just
Now,
checking.
what do you think is in the box? By the way, there's a little mystery in that movie. He has this box he keeps under his bed. We don't ever see the contents, but he goes to great lengths at the end of the movie. It's been buried with him. Surprise, they think he might be dead. And he pulls this box out. What do you think is in the box? Do you have any thoughts on this mystery?
It's later captured and put in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. Shared the universe.
I was about to say Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of amazing.
The melding of cinematic universes. And it's the man who killed Hitler and then Bigfoot that ties everything together.
And then has sex with Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
It obviously has something to do with his previous relationship, and I mean I think that they allude to that, but I think that they leave it pretty open ended. I wasn't want to speculate exactly what's in the box, because I think that that's kind of the fun part of it, is that there's something obviously
That's the fun of the man who killed Hitler and then
yes.
Bigfoot.
Okay.
I killed Hitler, killed Bigfoot, but when are we gonna have some fun? Oh, mystery box. Do you have any thoughts, Nick? Any theories on the box?
Well, I think it was the biggest snub of the Oscars that year, not getting Sam Elliott a Best Actor nomination, and his mustache should have gotten Best Supporting.
I will contend that his performance in this movie is fucking
It's
phenomenal.
as good as anything he's ever done.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a master class in what can happen if you tackle something with some gravitas, even if it has a title like the title of this film.
It kind of reminded me of like that in Schitt's Creek, how Moira is like in the Feast of Crows
Feast of
3,
Crows.
the
Crowaning.
the Crowaning or whatever it is, and how she takes it super seriously, and like I was just like, oh, this is what happens if you just gotta take this like pulp, like weird pulp concept, and you actually treat it with some dignity and respect. And I think if they did that more, you might find yourself with kind of some interesting places that you can go with kind of character work.
It's that shame that has been built into filmmakers that aren't making dramas and in entertainment popcorn fest comedy.
Like, for example, like tonally, I would say the closest comparison, it's not a movie that a lot of people have seen, but there's a movie that came out in the 90s called Cemetery Man, starring Rupert Everett.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a really good kind of comparison, because it was love that movie. Super pulpy B-movie concept, but it had really big ideas. And like the end of that movie is kind of like very bleak and very kind of earth-shatteringly weird and very metaphorical. And you could tell it was a movie that was just like, it felt like a kind of an Evil Dead type of movie. But then at the end of the movie, you were just like, shit, I'm thinking about that. Like 3 days later, like the ending is really kind of heavy. And I think that even though this movie didn't have that type of like longevity as far as thinking about it, metaphorically speaking, it has the gravitas that type of movie did. So yeah, I loved it. Honestly, I walked in multiple times to Beth, who of course left the room because she was like, I'm not watching that fucking movie just based off the title.
Well,
and I was just like,
she got real stupid when Bigfoot got naked.
This is a good movie. Like, it's actually like legitimately good. Like I kept on coming back. I'm like, movie's not bad. Like it's crazy, because I was expecting it to be bad. I was expecting it to be awful. And then I saw Sam Elliott, and I was just like, oh shit, it came out last year. What the fuck is this? And then at 20 minutes into the movie, I was just like, "Fuck, this is good."
That shaving scene drove me fucking up the wall.
Yeah.
I get so
and it
nervous.
took a long time because
Yeah.
Bigfoot is really hairy.
When they shave Bigfoot's balls, I was really not expecting that.
I am the unreliable narrator.
The man who killed Hitler and then shaved Bigfoot.
Well, hey, Matt, let's move on to you because I'm really interested in what you have to say about the
Woo!
film. I
Yeah,
assigned
so
you.
Ben assigned me a 1984 gem called Choose Me. And for just to get you in the mood, this is how the movie starts.
Oh,
There's a little Teddy Pendergrass soundtrack along with this movie that is a character in and of itself.
That's why we need to just
But this is how the movie opens at this sort of seedy bar called Eve's. Everyone outside of this bar, anytime you're at the go there, there is a threesome happening somewhere on screen. There's two women and a man all making out, or two men and a woman making out, or just a couple making out. There's a lot of
two guys, a girl, a pizza place.
There's just in the background of almost every shot, outside and inside of Eve's, there are people getting it on, which is like a theme of this movie. So I just assumed
They were chosen.
I assumed Ben assigned me a porno. Like I was fully expecting from here. I'm like, okay, yes, I see that it has Keith Carradine in it, but I'm pretty sure this is a porno, and it's not far.
Genevieve Bouillard in it. Come on,
It's not
Academy Award winner.
Far off. So, I'll try to break this down. Essentially, there are 5 characters, and it's kind of a examination of relationships and affairs and love and self-worth between these 5 characters who all interact with each other in ways they know and don't know, but a lot of plot conveniences to get them in the same place. You've got Dr. Nancy Love. She's a radiotherapist that
Calling Dr. Love,
played by Genevieve Bouillard.
Played by Genevieve Bouillard, who I was not
Academy Award.
was not familiar with her work, so I apologize, Ben.
You don't know who Genevieve Bouillard is, really?
I really was not. I don't.
She's won an Academy Award. Yeah, seriously.
For what?
Isn't that what Stuart Scott used to say when someone hit a home run on SportsCenter?
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know what she won for, but I was not familiar with her work when I saw it. I started.
Oh, interesting.
So
I really
she,
thought that Stuart Scott joke was going to
the
land.
woman in Dead Ringers. I mean,
that was the only thing I knew her from was Dead Ringers. I remember
I'll look it up.
that, but I didn't remember her work. I knew everybody else in it. So she's a radiotherapist. She doles out love advice on this show in like the seediest radio studio with her, and so she's got like her producer room. So there's a guy that's like her producer and or maybe boss. It's kind of hard to tell. And
Mad Dog?
Yeah. No, it is like that. But and then 2 technicians. Everyone in there is smoking, and the guy that's taking the phone calls is just loudly taking the calls while he's like in her earpiece. I was like, I would never be able to run a radio show like this. It's terrible. What did she win for, Ben?
Could they
I was
hear
right.
the blues
No,
of Colin?
She was nominated for an Oscar for Anne of a Thousand Days in 1970.
I don't know that movie. So
I do, actually.
Okay.
Was there tossed salad and scrambled eggs in this film?
She won the Golden Globe that year for the same
Okay.
thing.
All right. I didn't know her. So
Save it for the Genevieve podcast.
so you've got her. You've got Keith Carradine plays a guy named Mickey. We meet him as he's being released from a mental hospital with some passing dialogue from like the doctor that's giving him his release papers. We have Eve, played by Leslie Ann Warren, that you might know from Clue fame. She's a former prostitute that now owns a bar called Eve's that she got when the previous owner, also named Eve, killed herself. That's a weird thing there. Then you've got
sort of how they kept it Ruth's Chris Steakhouse
Yes.
even when Ruth
sort of.
gave it up.
Well, no, but her name is Eve. Like it's just happened.
Right.
She saw a sign that said Eve's. She goes, "That's my name. I'm a prostitute. I want to buy this bar." And they're like, "You got the name. You might as well. The lady just killed herself. Eve 1 is gone. Eve 2 takes over." Then we have
And
Pearl.
then Eve 6 comes
Eve
up,
6
and they're
is-
like,
she's
and
a
then
few
she
years
meets
old.
all on the pride. She would choke on the
How
ride.
dare you?
Another man,
leave her
faith
empty
is nothing.
inside.
How dare you? Then we have Pearl.
Watch it spin around to a
We have Pearl, played by Ray Dong Chong. She's a budding poet that is at the bar that also seems to be kind of trying to ensnare some men there. And then Zach, played by Patrick Bauschow, who I remember from Carnival. I really loved him in the show Carnival. He's a real prize. He's an abusive husband that runs a weird poker game in town and manages to like beat up on Keith Carradine quite a bit. So all these are the 5 main people, and they all cross paths in Eve's bar. Eve, so try to explain, it gets very strange. Mickey goes to Eve's place looking for Eve number 1, the original Eve, because he apparently had a relationship with her. Eve 1 is gone, but Eve 2 is there. He orders the same drinks every time, which is a shot of Smirnoff and a Guinness with 2 inches of head on it. It's very adamant. If it is not served with 2 inches of head on it, he will not drink that shit. The girl, Pearl, starts hitting on him, and she's like, what do you think about this poetry I've written? He goes, well, I know this. She goes, you don't really know about poetry. He goes, yeah, I think I froze up there for a second.
She said, yeah, you did. I was about to continue the story.
He goes, oh, I was actually an Ivy League professor of poetry. And this starts a thing that Mickey keeps telling people that he was. Let me get the list of things. He was an Ivy League poetry professor. He was a war vet. He was a secret spy with the Russians, and he was a prize-winning magazine cover photographer. These are the main things he tells everyone that he does. No one knows what to believe with Mickey because he's also this. We've met him coming out of this mental institution. So that girl hits on him. He's not really interested in her. He's really interested in Eve.
They rendezvous, but then he's through with you.
He's interested in Eve. Eve 2, and he go walking out to her car. And this is where my favorite device in the movie starts being used. In this, there are 2 weird things. First of all, Mickey apparently asks any woman that he kisses to marry him. Which he actually, you might think I'm just making that up because he just happens to do it with 3 women in this movie over a 2.5 day period, but he actually says it. You can hear it here.
You smiled for a lot of the guys.
I like men. I always have.
I was just thinking what it would be like to kiss you.
And?
I wanted to marry you.
I've ruined too many marriages to have one of my own.
That is like 5 minutes after they've met, and he asks to marry her. And then they start this flirtation as this is going on, and we start to get these, it's almost like a Greek chorus provided by the Teddy Pendergrass song that is...
Choose me, baby.
Yeah, that starts, they just pop in like this.
I just think I can make it alone now.
And you're like, what? And at first it happened, I was like, what the fuck was that? And then they keeps going on.
You're my choice tonight.
Like, what? It happened again, over and over.
What delight.
Nick, is this ringing a bell now?
I just remembered it just now. That you saw my light bulb go off. I was about to ask you, when did we see this film?
We saw it together in film school.
Oh my God, you're right.
Portman
Now I remember
class.
It is the weirdest device, but it made me laugh so hard the first time it happened because I literally thought I was just hearing the song in my head because it had played
Get that drop.
so long. But yeah, I mean, well, then they get to the big one in the scene after.
In the midnight sky. You're my choice tonight.
What if I wanted to see more of you? Privately.
Sounds good. See you at 8.
Choose me, baby.
That was channeling Prince there at the end.
You're my choice tonight.
Good night.
You're My Choice Tonight is my favorite drop that I've got out of all this.
It reminds me of that old commercial, you know, I feel like chicken tonight. I feel like chicken tonight.
It is You're My Choice Tonight, which is apropos because Mickey does, in fact, he sleeps with 2 of the 3 women and makes out with the 3rd and asks all 3 to marry him in a 2.5 day span of this film. But eventually, there's just too much plot to actually break down. But if you find out
much plot,
we find out that Eve is having an affair with Ray Don Chong's husband, and she also is banging the bartender played by Jean Larroquette, who shows up for doing almost nothing in the movie as the bartender. All of these weird things, and then there's strange like plot lines that are introduced. One that happens in a scene that's completely separate from the rest of the movie that I don't understand. The woman's on the phone in her car. she's talking to someone. We don't know if it's her producer / owner of the station or boss, who it is, but it sounds like she's having a mental break, and he's like warning her, like, be careful. You don't want to have another one of these things. And I'm like, oh, it's going to turn out that like she spent time at the same mental hospital as Mickey. Nope. This is never examined again. It's a scene that happens with only her in a car. It seemed very easy to just excise from the movie because it leads to absolutely nothing. It is very strange. But overall, I will give it some props. I did like a lot of the dialogue at points. It's played exactly like a play. It is not, there are some great shots in it, but all of the dialogue is delivered like they're on stage. Like
I really like that one conversation between Mickey and Dr. Love, like when it's that long push in.
Yeah.
You know, the long scene where it's just one shot.
When he's seducing her, and then he's gonna go bang her after because he came there looking for Eve. Right. He's like, well, I'll just bang this girl. She's here.
No, but instead, yeah. And so I believe
She's
that
here.
Matt sent. I don't think we can show it right now, or playing it wouldn't have any context from an audio standpoint. But Matt sent a reaction video to that scene to us, and it was the hardest I've laughed from a video that Matt has sent to me in a really long time. So hopefully that finds its way.
I will put that up at some point. I guess it was.
I quite enjoyed that as well.
It was a lot of movie. It was a lot of just weird sex in it. I liked that he's trying to save up for this $95 bus ticket. That's like the big thing that's keeping him in town this whole time. He's trying to get back home to Vegas, and he like can't come up with the $95, but he's at this bar every night swilling Smirnoff and Guinness, like mountains of it. The other thing
I think 2 inches of head grows on trees.
Yeah, exactly. There are some really good shots in it. I did like the acting. There was one other thing I was going to mention. So the ending is kind of interesting because I feel bad. The ending kind of pissed me off a little bit. They literally ape The Graduate. The ending is like almost 100% The Graduate, with the two of them on a bus heading to Vegas.
Only instead of Simon and Garfunkel, it's Teddy.
They're on a bus, and she's like,
huge improvement.
I think I made a mistake. And getting it on. But yeah, she's on the bus. She tells this lady she just got married to him, and then she says this long reaction shot of her like looking excited, looking scared, looking happy, looking sad, all these things, and we fade out to it. But Eve is the only sort of sympathetic character for me in the movie. Mickey is just way too
Eve
weird.
Eve 1 or Eve 2?
Eve 2 is the only sympathetic character, and the fact that she winds up with this lunatic Keith Carradine, who like banged her roommate, her brand new roommate. It's so weird. So why did you guys watch that in film school exactly?
Okay, so that's the
I would like to know that also.
So Richard Portman, Academy Award winner Richard Portman, who did the sound mixing for Star Wars and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and won the Academy Award for Nashville.
I thought it was Deer Hunter.
Said Deer Hunter in Nashville. I thought it was Nashville.
I think it was Deer Hunter.
Anyways, he said that
Nashville won Best Song.
He said that this film had the best Nat sound of any movie he ever worked on, and that the director took great care in making sure that they had to do no ADR. So there is zero additional dialogue replacement in the entire movie. The entire movie is actual dialogue spoken by the actors in the scene right then.
But I mean, I just played you a clip that is almost unintelligible.
Exactly. But
it's that clean Nat, baby. It's that clean Nat.
So you can imagine when he was talking about, this is the movie with the best like natural audio, like when it came to sound mixing I ever did. And then he puts on Choose Me. And we spent an hour and 42 minutes watching Choose Me. In Studio Center A at the FSU Film School, and all of us are looking at each other like, "What the fuck is going on?"
There was some real uncomfortable energy. It reminded me of when I was
very uncomfortable.
I took a figure class in high school. It's only 2 high schools that had nude figure drawing, and my teacher put on the famous Portishead album "Dummy." and we had no idea what to do with our hormones. No Teddy.
No Teddy.
Like it was like, I would say Portishead is a bit sexier than.
Yeah,
well,
I think so.
Up for opinion,
I mean,
guess.
I would say Dummy is. I think Dummy was rated as like the #1 sexiest album of all time.
I was hard as a rock 30 seconds into Teddy singing. I mean, I was like, choose me tonight. Just
all right.
You chose.
But I just remember we walked out of that day. We were fucking crying. We were laughing so hard just because we kept on being like, oh, it'd just be like. I still remember because what happened right afterwards, because it was a morning class, and somebody was just like, okay, let's eat. And I was just like, and somebody mentioned like Chipotle or like going to Moe's. And somebody was like, anybody feel like Moe's? I was like, choose me, baby.
I just think I can.
You're my choice tonight.
You're my choice tonight.
We left that class laughing, and our parents were crying after getting that film school bill.
I can imagine definitely like looking through the takeout menus and then just like finding the one.
You're my choice tonight.
I mean, it sounds like the jingle for fucking Chili's or something.
But those of you listening though, you have to understand. So that happens once in that scene, then once during like another semi-romantic. It's almost like the sound of his boner getting ready. Like as soon as like he starts getting with her and they're like kissing a little bit, and it's just like, oh, and like everyone and like that, and then he's like, oh yeah, I think we're getting a little bit closer. Oh, what's a light? Oh, that. Like, and then he's ready. Then he's ready to go.
Be sure to try the Southwestern egg rolls.
To be fair, so the reason why I assigned it is because, ironically, besides
he wanted you to suffer the way we did.
but ironically, besides all the really super cheesy Teddy Pendergrass stuff and the fact that it's really awkward, it's a very awkward movie. There are scenes that are really well done, and I'm like, oh wow, yeah. I mean, there's scenes that actually like I'm like, oh yeah, this is a good movie, and then it like weirdly transitions to the next scene.
I definitely don't regret watching it. I definitely don't regret watching it.
It's not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just a weird movie. It's a very weird movie,
and some weird characters in it. All right, Mark. Why don't you, you're the new man on the block.
Mark Travaglini, we hold you in our heart.
And Matt's going to tell the story of the biggest fart.
Yeah. I got to find that show and show it to my kids. They watch that stupid, like, Bunked on the Disney Channel all the time. I think they would be something my, like, 9-year-old would watch.
I am behind that.
But anyway, when Matt told me about this, I was a little hesitant because I listen to you guys all the time. I'm like, oh great, what the hell kind of stuff are they going to send me? So he assigned me 2007's Son of Rambo. It's written and directed by Garth Jennings.
Garth Jennings.
I mean, basically anything you guys could have sent me that, even if it was somewhat popular, chances are I probably wouldn't have seen it with the kids. I don't get out to the movies much or anything like that. So for those of you listening that don't know Garth Jennings, he did Sing and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and then a bunch of like music videos and things like that. So it was good to see something else from him, because I'm used to seeing Sing with the kids. They watch it all the time. It's very entertaining. Anyway, the premise from IMDb, they quote it as, during a long English summer in the 1980s, two schoolboys from differing backgrounds set out to make a film inspired by First Blood. So you read that, it's like great. But anyway, the film opens up and shows like this Bible meeting, and the main character's name is Will Proudfoot, and it's played by Bill Milner. So those of you that have seen X-Men First Class, he's the young Eric. And he's also in Dunkirk, and that was the most recent movie I've actually seen and I've heard of. But his dad had died from a brain aneurysm, like mowing the grass. Which was kind of funny because he was explaining to his friend and things like that. But they're in this weird, like, kind of ultra Christian cult called the Brethren. And when they have meetings, for some reason, they put their watches somewhere on this thing, and they just like really strict, like borderline Amish, but not quite.
I do like that you called it a cult.
Well, it really was though, because like
it's a little Amishy, but I don't know that that was a bold interpretation. I like that.
Well, yeah. So they're doing that, and they're out in front of a movie theater doing their prayer meeting while First Blood is playing inside. So inside, the movie theater, the other main character, the other kid named Lee Carter, who's played by Will Poulter. He's from Maze Runner, Black Mirror, Bandersnatch, the movie Midsummer is the most recent stuff that he's been in.
Was originally supposed to be Pennywise in It.
This is true. When Muschietti
Before
was
he
doing
got
it.
recast.
Yeah, so he's in there making a bootleg copy of First Blood, which kind of comes in later in the story. So anyway, they both go into school, and with Will's background, he's not allowed to watch TV. So in their science class or geography or something, they're watching a movie. So he's got to leave and go out into the hall while the rest of the class watches his video. And so a couple of doors down, Lee gets thrown out of his class because he's just kind of a troublemaker, kind of smart ass kid. So he's down there and he just pegs this kid in the face with the ball, just randomly sitting down there. And then he goes down there and looks at this book that it's basically a Bible, but the kid's Will's very imaginative. He like sees cartoons and everything. So he's like in one of the bathrooms in the school, he's got like this big mural going on, and every time he's like passing things, like he sees like animations and cartoons on all the different things that's out there. So he's
like British Nick. Like he's like there's no interest in this Bible, but he draws like flip animations on the corners of it.
Only I don't think he drew the knob goblin in a bathroom stall.
I want to be clear. I never defaced the Bible or drew a knob goblin on a piece of holy text. All right,
on a piece of holy text.
That was implied. I did not. I've never done that.
Knob goblin.
So then they're out. They're out in the hall, and they end up like fighting over the book, and they knock this big like fish tank over, and then they get sent to the principal's office, and Will has his dad's watch in his pocket, and then so they're Lee's trying to con him into thinking that he would cover the punishment from the headmistress for him if he gave him something. So Will gives him this watch that's his father's watch, and
his father's watch. I kept it in my ass.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly where he found it. And then so he Will runs off after Lee says he'll take the punishment, he'll take the beating. And then Lee just gets up and walks away. So neither kid gets it. And then the whole like rest of the day, he's pretending he took a big beating and getting this kid to feel sorry for him and basically eventually to be like his slave or do things for him. So Will catches Lee trying to steal this bike. And he was like, well, where are you going? He's like, well, I've got to go home. The headmistress sent me home. And he's like, well, you can't ride. You're all beat up. And what about your leg that's hurt? So Will decides to take Lee back to his house, which is connected to this nursing home. So they walk in through this nursing home, terrorize a couple of the patients, and they walk through this like closet and open up, and it's like this big palace. There's like marble like statues and things in there. So apparently the kid's family is really wealthy that owns it, but his mom lives in Spain with her boyfriend. So it's just him and his older brother that's there. And so he's Lee's basically his older brother.
The kid from Gossip Girl that Nick thought he was modeled after, but was not.
Someone once told me. Never mind. Forget it. Keep going. Never mind.
So he's like basically a servant to his brother, and so he's using his brother's video camera when he's not supposed to, and he's doing something outside. And his brother comes home, and so he hides him and Will up in this boat that's in this like closet area. And so while he's doing that, the brother's asking for his copy of First Blood that he bootlegged for him. So he's recording it, and then they both walk out of the room. So Will, who's never seen TV, watches this whole First Blood being dubbed over onto this thing. So then he runs out, and so all for the rest of the movie, or for a long time in the movie, he's imagining being the son of Rambo and just going through all these like ridiculous things trying to rescue his father. So he's like running back home, and he comes across this like scarecrow that's out there, and he imagines him like trying to capture his dad and all that things like that. So
and he spells Rambo with a W at the end because he's never seen the opening titles of the movie. So he just hears Rambo on the screen and thinks it's Rambow, that's the title of the movie is Son of Rambo.
Yeah. So then he goes all through that, and they end up there's this like movie competition for kids that are under 17. So Will and Lee decide they're going to make this movie. And so basically they're just putting themselves in all these like comical scenarios, like trying to reenact Rambo, but using like an old like senile guy from the nursing home as Rambo, and his dad, he's going in and try to save him, and the guy has no idea what's going on. But then there's like some random, while they're doing all that, like I still don't really understand the point of the French exchange students. But there's like at this English school, this group of French exchange students come in, and like everybody kind of gets off and is disappointed with them. But then there's this.
I think there's like a whole plot line like for the guy that did it, Garth Jennings. He's good friends with Edgar. Edgar Wright has like a cameo in the movie as well. Like it was a big British guy. The girl from Spaced is in it. That plays the kid's mom that played Jessica. But it's based on his childhood a little bit of like drawing these animation and all stuff. So there's a whole backdrop to the movie of the new wave 80s music. So all the music is like Cure and like all of this stuff. It's like being at Respectables in the early 2000s, but it's all this new wave stuff. And then you get these French foreign exchange students come in and they're like ultra 80s, like way more advanced than these kids and fashionable and all this stuff. And that's like kind of the whole backdrop to this other story that's happening with the kids making the movie.
Yeah, well, they come in and there's like half of them are disappointed with the kids that come off. And there's this one kid that comes off. His name's Didier, and he's dressed all in red. I called him like French Rufio because that's pretty much what he looks like. As he steps out, it's like French Rufio. So he comes out here, and all the English kids like love this guy. So all of them are following him around just because they think he's like the coolest person on there. But it turns like out, then I'll explain more about him later. But he wants to be in the movie. So him and his like 4 English minions that are just following him around as part of the exchange student hijack their way kind of into the movie. So he writes himself in as this guy Wolf and tries to take over basically the whole movie. And it puts a rift between Lee and Will. They end up getting into like a big fight at the end and everything. And so basically the end of the movie, they get into a big fight over his brother. And then he gets into an accident while they're filming the movie. There's like a whole bunch of like details and things like that. Lee gets into an accident. So he's in the hospital, and then Will goes and talks to his brother and gets him basically to finish off the movie. And the whole time Lee never thought that his brother liked him at all. And so he got him to like admit on the camera, and they ended up finishing the movie for this kid while he's in the hospital recovering, and they take him to a special screening of it, and they put all the movie together with all the French kids and kind of make it a good feel good story, kind of kids from 2 different sides that weren't really allowed to see each other, weren't supposed to be friends, and things like that come together. But
it's funny that you said the whole new wave fashionista thing, because I always thought that whole French thing was a comment on French film and French film criticism, like how the French always are just like, we're so much better than the rest of you, and I always thought that was kind of like
that could be that's actually a pretty good view, because he does come in and try to like make it his own, and
he tries to make it his own, and like this is what's gonna make
he's gonna be the new Patrick Swayze. How dare he he think he can be Patrick Swayze? There's only one.
If the man who kills Hitler, it's funny, that reminds me of an episode of Community. If the man who killed Hitler then Bigfoot is an episode of X-Files, that's sort of like one of the special episode of Community, where Abed would Swede the movie along the way.
Now, what were your thoughts? What did you think about it, Mark? Did you enjoy it, or is it a slog to get through for you?
No, it was a lot better than I was expecting it to be. Like, because I really wasn't sure where it was going to go with the title that you sent out, and then once it like started to get going, it actually was a lot more entertaining than I was expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be more
film.
Like not from that sense, but like I know like more like this group here is like more into like the artistic angle of film. Well, not necessarily that.
Well, I was
kind of
analyzing themes and things like that. I just watch it because
don't make Mark hate me more.
Well, I specifically share with Mark because Mark and Casey and I, when we were kids growing up, would shoot movies and do stuff on our camcorders and put these things together, and set to Danny Elfman's music for A Darkened Theater, because it was the only CD I had that had really good theme music on it. So that's why I know that album so
double
well.
CD, number one or number two.
I like the both discs.
The second one, maybe.
There's some great ones on there.
Volume 2, motherfucker.
But yeah, I thought it. I think.
By the way, real quick, if you're not following Danny Elfman on Instagram, I highly suggest you do. While in quarantine, he has taken to creating daily updates on his chicken farm, and it is surprisingly premium content. All right.
I think I was kind of curious also, Mark, you're a parent and you've got kids and you're showing them stuff, but movies like this that are kind of like about kids' love of movies and stuff like that. It's not anything that there's anything super inappropriate in it, although there's some heavy themes in it. But it's something that I would think about, like, because to me, it felt like a throwback to the Goonies and like kids' movies when we were kids, where they weren't like afraid to be real kids. Like they kind of rough and tumble, and there's a little bit of swearing and a little bit of, irreverence in it that I thought was kind of welcome, for a movie in 2000, what was it, 2007?
7, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think there was anything inappropriate with it. I probably would let my 9-year-old watch it at least. I mean, she'd probably be like, what's with the weird accents and the French kids? She probably wouldn't really understand too much from that. But I mean, they watch The Sandlot all the time and things like that. So it's got like harsh language and for their age too. But I mean, that wouldn't bother me. I just am not really sure they'd be super interested in it.
Yeah. It's I'm always waiting for I strangely saw Sing in the theaters because I got dragged to it with a family thing. Really? I did not enjoy it. No. And I was like, I actively really disliked it. And then I had no idea it was Garth Jennings both writing and directing in it, because Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is not a perfect movie, but it's got some really competent things in it.
It's great.
That I like.
It got some great
I
parts.
love that book, and that movie's an impossible adaptation. I thought he did a really good job with it. And I think Son of Rambo is amazing. I mean, there's some really inventive stuff with the animation that they overlay on it and stuff. I'm like, that's it. Like, he does music videos, and he's working on Sing 2 now. And I'm like, that's all he's done in the last 13 years. And he showed so much promise. And he's known by like Edgar Wright and these other directors that are like, have gone on to like make a name. I always thought it was such a weird thing that he never took off.
Yeah. Well, I also found, like, with the commentary of the French thing, I always thought it was funny too, like how all the English kids really liked that Didier guy, but in the end it turned out like all the French kids hated him and thought he was like the biggest loser in the thing. Right. And so he's like in the back. So it goes to like your commentary about the shot at French culture.
Well, apparently those Brits don't like the French. No. I just like that his main words he speaks just are the bonjour England and the goodbye England at the beginning and end of it.
Up baguettes, hurry up!
All right, Nikki, let's hear about your.
Bring us home.
I can't wait to hear Nick's reaction to this movie.
I was assigned the film adaptation of the musical Cats. I really enjoyed it. I gotta say, must see. The best.
We're gonna just play the whole thing on audio right here for Mark while we.
Yeah, I didn't have enough time to get.
I've already heard it from listening to all your episodes.
because that would be a contract infringement. We decided we just gotta sing the whole thing.
Right.
It'd probably be better.
Let's get jellicle, motherfuckers. Let's get jellicle. Let's get jellicle.
Just anyway. Cats versions of Teddy Pendergrass songs.
I'm gonna do it. Well, the funny thing is, in 1995's The Last Supper, we trade in Teddy Pendergrass for Casey and the Sunshine Band for some reason, which is heavily featured. But basically,
who your dad opened up for?
He sure did.
This is true.
He sure did. Man, that was a good show. Anyway, Last Supper is sort of a dark black comedy. And it's got a really good cast. It's got Cameron Diaz, right as she was popping, Courtney B. Vance, music by Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo. Nora Dunn is in it even. But basically the premise starts off with some friends. They're all young graduate students. They're in art school. They're young liberals in the mid-90s. And they're having dinner. They had this idea that they're going to have people over to have conversations about life and politics and current events and get different angles on things. They're kind of living in this liberal bubble. And one of these characters has car trouble. And with the help of this dude who they don't know, he drives them back to the house in the middle of a rainstorm. And they offer, hey, why don't you just stay for dinner? You've helped us out so much so far. And the guy's played by Bill Paxton. Walks in full Chet. I mean, he's got a vest. It's like he walked out of Weird Science and into Last Supper. Same character too, only
The best
way more
description.
racist.
Yeah, the best description I could possibly think of.
Imagine if Chet from Weird Science was a Holocaust denier. That's who you have. Literal Holocaust denier.
Yeah,
Because as they start to talk to him, they start to hear these horrendous personal beliefs that maybe Hitler wasn't so bad, and they immediately start to get on the defense. And as things start to heat up, finally they say, "We think you should leave." And to make a point, Bill pulls out a giant hunting knife that he has on his person, grabs one of these friends by the neck, just put the fear of God in him a little bit to scare him.
The one Jewish character at the table he's been denying the Holocaust to this whole time.
He's watched his intentions have boiled over, and as he's finally letting go of the guy and making his way out, is attacked by this guy. I forgot who plays him or what's his character.
He's married to the director.
Right, he is.
Yeah.
He is. And anyway, he inadvertently murders him with a giant chef knife. And it's debatable whether it was truly in self-defense. Bill Paxton does break the arm of one of their friends in an attack during this whole scuffle. You're right. But anyway, now he's dead. And the group is, I would say, interestingly not as phased as I would think that they would be. And as I'm watching the movie, I'm starting to think, okay, is this where the dark comedy comes in? Like, aren't they freaking out more? Cameron Diaz is always kind of the voice of reason, but everyone else is kind of like, it sucks, but now we got to bury this body, I guess. And these are all like, hippie art school liberal kids or whatever, but now they've got a taste for blood. So this has gone, now this is basically turned into Melvin Goes to Dinner, to now it's Little Shop of Horrors a little bit because they get a taste for blood and they decide, you know what? These far right assholes, what good are they even really doing? Yes, we murdered this man. We murdered Chet. He'll never see Gary and Wyatt ever again. But he's better off. The world is better off without this asshole. They get a taste for blood, and the whole movie is them inviting a string of ultra conservatives. Or, for example, Jason Alexander comes in as an anti-environmentalist, climate denier. We got an anti-Semitic Nation of Islam fundamentalist, anti-abortion activist, a rape apologist, all homophobic priests. All these people that really have terrible, terrible beliefs. I think objectively, and they meet their untimely end. And every time someone is murdered, they cut away to the back yard where they're growing tomatoes in the garden, and there's one mound, then another mound appears, and another mound as the body count continues to stack up.
And the spaghetti sauces they keep making out of said tomatoes.
Yes, and then they make the tomato sauce to serve to their victims.
It's a perfect system.
Yeah, it's a perfect system, clearly. So out of all of them, Luke, who is played by Courtney B. Vance, I think starts to get a little too into it. Their dedication is starting to falter a bit. But the biggest prize at this point, out of all the people they've killed, is this character played by Hellboy, Norman
Ron Perlman.
Arbuthnot, who in the Wikipedia they say is like a Rush Limbaugh, but to me is absolutely a Sean Hannity in today's climate.
Yeah.
Way more of a personality, kind of new and hot, big reach on television. He's routinely featured in the background and room on television sets. It's the first scene. They say, turn this guy off as they're waiting for.
And he's like anti-feminists and everything. Yeah.
It's just leaning hard. And this is my favorite part of the movie. Meanwhile, the heat is on them through Nora Dunn, who is the sheriff of this small town in Iowa.
She just reminds me of Carrie Kenny from Reno 911.
Totally.
For some reason in that Weigel.
Yeah, kind of timid in the haircuts there. But yeah, they're in Iowa, even though it's like clearly California and all these hot young Hollywood stars or whatever. But anyway,
what university are all these people going to here in Iowa? They're all in grad school.
Iowa?
Yeah.
It's the Hawk or whatever, the Hawkeyes or whatever. Anyway, so basically the heat is on them because, as it turns out, they are investigating the disappearance of a young girl who is not in the movie, but played. You know who she's played by?
Peggy Olson from Mad Men.
Correct.
Yeah.
What's
her
Blessed
name?
Be the Fruit.
Yeah.
But anyway, Elizabeth Moss. Yeah. Anyway, she is investigating the disappearance of this girl, and they are suspecting that Chet from Weird Science has a history, a sex offender. They think that her blood was found in his pickup truck, and his pickup truck was found, but they couldn't find Chet. So, unbeknownst to the rest of the group, Luke kills the sheriff when she starts investigating the garden and asks a little too many questions, leading up to some of the characters actually meeting Hellboy. I think at an airport. Was it an airport they meet?
Yeah, at the airport. Yeah,
falls right into their lap. The crown jewel of far-right conservative assholes, the cherry on top of their murder sundae, and they convince him to come back for dinner.
That was the best line from, like, I still remember from the trailer, whether he's like, you guys know a good place to get some food around here? And they both on unison they go, yes.
So they start making the murder tomatoes, and they're stewing it up, and they're making the pasta al dente. More ways than one. And they're sitting down, and the best part of it to me is they finally got this guy right where they want him. And to great comedic effect, as the movie goes on, I mean, they're not exactly interrogating everyone the same way they interrogated Bill Paxton until they were sure he loved Hitler. All these people have to say is one unsavory thing that would reinforce their stereotype of them, and they're murdered. They're straight up murdered right away. And it started to become kind of a knee-jerk reaction. They start talking to Hellboy, and they realize he's actually got quite a head on his shoulders. He's playing in a game. He openly admits to adopting super far-right talking points for attention and just to amplify his platform. But that really, at the end of the day, it's good, this push and pull. What we want in society is to meet in the middle, right? We have
He's
to
a
have
smug
personalities.
centrist. He's a smug centrist. I love it.
Yes, it's not a centrist. He's clearly conservative. He's a Sean Hannity. He's opportunistic, and he's preying on people who are gullible. But as it turns out, he's actually very smart. He knows exactly what he's doing, and this puts a little bit of doubt into everyone's head. You know, maybe this isn't the same as someone who's just raised on hate. But Courtney B. Vance says, look, if he's doing it just for the money and abandoning his values, even more reason we should kill him. He's all for it. Meanwhile, for a reason that I don't think they explained in the film, Hellboy, as they're arguing in the kitchen, he's awkwardly sitting there with his murder tomatoes.
He puts the whole thing together in the weirdest, doesn't make any sense. I agree with you.
It's like he's the fucking Dread Pirate Roberts. He takes one sip of this wine, and he's like, this shit's poison. And
he figures out so much about what's going on based on his clues are like a newspaper article about someone going missing. He's like, obviously these 5 liberals killed them.
It was literally like the scene in Family Guy where he's like, P. Here, Griffin. It's like newspaper, mounds in the garden with the tomatoes, and then he smells the wine. He's like, do I detect a hint of arsenic? Anyway, he figures it out. He poisoned everybody else's wine. And when they come back, he's charming them. He goes, you all look like you could use a drink. And they go, we sure could. Switches the wine on him, and it ends on a pullback of what is presumably the art of the art student guy, one of the main characters, and yet if he's dead like the painting suggests, he couldn't have painted it. But it ends on Hellboy proudly smoking a cigar over the 5 dead bodies of the young friend. So presumably he has now murdered everyone else, and he is rising the ranks like the Omen, and decided to run for president, and that's what it ends.
Yeah, and that's the thing I always thought was kind of interesting in it, is that it's the one thing that's a little bit different than what we deal with our on-air personalities on that kind of stuff, is that his game 100% is to be president. He's not. It's not just. And that's why, like, I agree with you.
Like Sean Hannity.
Yeah, like saying like Limbaugh doesn't make sense. Limbaugh has no interest in actual leadership. He just wants to talk about it and react to it.
He just wants the National Medal of Freedom.
Yeah, but I love the idea of this guy that's basically just like, yeah, I'm an asshole and I want to make things in the middle, and the only way I can get there. And I read him a little bit different. I think, Nick, I gave him more the benefit of the doubt that he's doing some pretty deplorable things by pandering, but I believe that if his idea, he's just so smug, which is the shortcoming of it. But I think it seems to me his goal really is to go in more in a centrist position. Like he'll run with.
By the way,
I've always had a completely different view than both of you.
Oh wow!
Is that he was that far right all along, but that was the conversation that he had with people to make people think that he was centrist. And
he knows
was
what
always he was always insidious and like really, really not just far right, but just basically evil.
Well, didn't Hellboy come up with the Nazis?
We gotta stop conflating him with Hellboy. Actual Hellboy.
Listen, the last shot is him literally lighting up a stogie. Ron
Exactly.
Perlman
No,
lights up a stogie. He's Hellboy in this.
He becomes
alt-right
basically
Hellboy.
evil. Yeah, at the end, and that's the whole thing. I was like, no, he's
He's Hellboy, Proud Boy.
I do, yeah. I do like that it doesn't. I like that it doesn't pull its punches for either side in it, though. Like even though the plot definitely sounds very liberal, the liberals are not painted in a great light in this either, as far as the argument goes.
And look, the names of these liberals, anti-conservatives are Jude, Pete, Paulie, Mark, Luke.
Yeah.
They're all clearly, biblical references, and it's clearly the message is sort of like judge not lest ye be judged, but yet like they do all have unobjectively better viewpoints of the more compassionate viewpoints than these conservatives. They just jump to murder too fast.
I don't think that there's any question that this movie was made by liberals.
Yes, no, I agree, but I do
right,
but it does not. It is not completely one-sided in that the five people at that table are assholes. Like every one of them proves themselves to one degree more. I mean, Courtney B. Vance legit kills a cop because she realizes that what they're doing and they're going to catch her. He just cold-blooded murders an innocent woman who could be whatever. We don't know.
The non-political version of this movie is a movie that Matt does not like, which is called Very Bad Things, which is a movie.
God, I hate that movie.
Where
Suicide
nobody
Kings
is
too remind me of.
Oh, I love
Nobody
Suicide
is
Kings though.
Redeemable.
Here's the thing. Like, while everyone is I feel like the conservatives in this film are caricatures, and the liberals are characters to a certain extent, but really it wasn't. I would have liked them to explore what really, and they skirt on it. What makes liberals really actually dangerous? And they skirt on it a little bit. Is that all we do is argue? And I
Chet calls them out on it pretty good. That first scene is a lot of it.
To me, the liberals are bad because this cast of liberals murder people. No, they didn't dig deep into like what danger could there be in like always thinking that you're on the right side of history and the ego that goes with that and how you perceive the world. There's a great line by Chet where he's like, you guys go to grad school and graduate and complain about it. Whereas the real Americans go to war and die and work the hard job so you can complain about it. And if they had gotten a little more to the meat of that bone, I think it would have tied it a little more together. But to me, it's just like, nah. How do we even the playing field between these like homophobes and like women abusers? Oh, we'll just make them murder people. A lot of people.
I also like also that the turn happens when they bring in the high school girl and they're all like, is this wrong? Is this frown? Like they're like, she's a high school. Maybe she's not so bad. That's the only one that they actually let get away on it, and that's sort of that turning point where they're like, okay, maybe we've gone, but like they've also killed like
they let Hellboy get away.
Yeah, well, I mean, they didn't let him.
Through their own negligence.
Yeah, eventually. But yeah, I just thought it was an interesting movie. Specific. There's so much in that movie that is we're 25 years past that movie right now. And you could release that movie now, and everyone would be like, "Oh, well, this is obviously because Ron Perlman's obviously playing a Trump character." Like it, that
Roger
movie
Ebert of the
is-
Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, writing that although it is too long and repetitive, he appreciates its lack of let's see, partisanship. He described it as a brave effort in a timid time. A Swiftian attempt to slap us all in the face and get us to admit that our own freedoms depend precisely on those of our neighbors, our opponents,
God.
and yes, our enemies.
Oh God, how I'd love to go back to a timid time.
Well,
Yeah, right.
what's amazing though, also that movie was released in the middle of
Boingo Boingo broke up.
in the middle of a Democratic presidency. That's the other thing that's kind of interesting on it is it was done in a time of power for the liberals. And
Yeah, but I mean, the 90s was Karl Rove and Rush Limbaugh and like all those guys coming to basically,
yeah, to rail against Clinton. I mean, they freaked out. Clinton was like the worst thing that could happen.
Politics became a different thing in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, it is kind of an uncomfortable movie to watch as someone who is like very liberal and very much at odds with many conservative values. Just watching this cast of characters like gleefully murder people and make tomato sauce. It was honestly like kind of a pit in my stomach. Kind of like, I mean, keep watching this. I had to for the podcast.
The argument they keep making in the movie is the Hitler argument. That's the one thing they keep going back to justify their thing. If you could go back in time and kill Hitler when he was a young art student before he'd done anything bad,
Bigfoot,
and then grow up and kill Bigfoot, would you do it? And only one
and then
man.
Sam Elliott.
He said, "You're goddamn right.
You're goddamn right, I would not do it again." And on that note,
I'll fucking kill that Hitler, and I'll sell your dad's farm. Sell that farm.
On that note, we want to thank you so much for listening to the New Way podcast, and want to thank Mark for joining us and jumping into the fray with a little cold reading. Listen, the one good thing about the lockdown, we all have time to record as many podcasts as you possibly could listen to. So we're going to just keep releasing these week to week until we.
I'm washing my hair next week though, so I'm unavailable next week.
You're unavailable for all that hair. Have you?
I got a thing.
I got a lot of volume going on up there. I don't think you've been washing every day.
I got a thing.
I think you got a thing. Well, Ben's got to navigate around anniversaries and birthday parties and all kinds of things.
Happy anniversary.
Thank
yes. Yeah, I don't know when this one's airing, but I think you might have been anniversed by the time it shows up. But
tomorrow.
We'll see.
Tomorrow. So yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Anniversary's tomorrow. So yeah, it'll definitely.
That is a word, anniversed. It's a real one. That's a thing.
Well after.
Thank you guys.
Is this the Wood anniversary, Ben?
Every anniversary is the Wood.
There it is.
Actually, I think number 9. No. Number 7 is Wood.
Lucky number 7.
Because I made that joke at the same time.
7.
Beth was just like, nah, I'm not having it.
7.
Nope.
Yeah,
I wouldn't either.
All right, thanks, guys, so much for listening. We'll be back with a new episode next week, and we're gonna do it all at the same time. In the count of 3, 2, 1. Cheers! Just say cheers, Mark.
Cheers, Mike.
There we go.
Nice. Classic.